Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Well, we have already heard now what ageism is, what the challenges are, and we heard first steps, what we could do, and my presentation will mainly focus on this, how to combat ageism, and to see it also in a wider perspective, in a kind of vision how to change our life course in order to get rid of ageism. So I would like to show first the linkage between ageism and the chronological age limits that welfare states and cultural habits have brought to us in education, in labor markets, and regarding pension age. This means also that we have new challenges for cross-sectional statutory policies with rising longevity, as we heard, and what has not so much mentioned until now is also the changes in new technologies that can be something good for the future or for our aging, or it is also a challenge in terms of Industry 4.0, and you might know better what the consequences might be. So the vision against ageism and against chronological age limits would be a new approach to aging in general and the life course, and this I would like to present at the end. So first of all, we are of course confronted with an ageist ideology, and we see this in particular, for example, in labor market policies, where workers are excluded because of their chronological age. We have seen this in the 70s, 80s. There were even early retirement strategies where politicians thought this saves or is a policy against unemployment if older workers just step out of the labor market. But actually, research has shown that this labor is not a black box that is stable in terms of, in particular in terms of age. So it is not immediately that an older worker steps out and the younger takes over exactly the same job. This is not how it's working, and therefore we see countries where, for example, the pension age is much higher, often even have lower unemployment rates. Then we have also the debates on lower productivity of older workers, and on the other hand, we have policies that want to extend working lives, because of course public policies try to avoid pension expenditures and to have pension systems more sustainable. This means that we are all told we have to work longer in order to make the pension system sustainable. But this does not really fit with the existing, on the one hand, stereotypes and also the discussion, for example, on lower productivity of older workers. So all of that is based on chronological age limits that have been defined at some point in time, often without any real reason, and of course not taking into account individual differences of individual aging and individual life courses. So we see other difficulties at other transitions over the life course, for example, from youth that there is a recent book by O'Reilly and others that show very nicely all these difficulties at the transitions of young people to work across Europe and across different labor market regimes and economies. We also know about the transition and the difficulties of combining work, care, often childcare, but more and more also childcare and care for an older family member at the same time. This is mainly done by women. And here we often have the transition and the difficulties in, well, either combining care and work or giving up employment, paid work, in order to do unpaid care work. And then the problem is how to get back to employment at some point. And of course we have the problem of older workers extending working lives. This has already been, in a way, outlined by Riley and Riley before 2000, that the differentiated life course model with having education first, then a work and labor phase, and then a leisure phase, a pension phase, that this wouldn't work. Their proposal at the time was to have an integrated life course perspective in terms of lifelong learning or of better combining education, training, work, and leisure. This integration of this traditional life course pattern, education, work, leisure, pension, has been increasingly deconstructed over the past decades because we have seen more and more extended education time or period, and then even more an extended transition to work. So then we have, of course, a period of paid work, of employment, but we have increasing unemployment periods, we have care periods, as I mentioned already, and other leaves from employment. So we also need here more retraining, and we need to combine it with unpaid work. Also, there has been, let's say, some progress at least in terms of more equality, more equal distribution of paid and of unpaid work, also between men and women. And at the other end, we see that apart from the early retirement policies, we now see that, of course, this has been reversed. People should work longer, but this is in many countries linked with huge difficulties, and we don't see much progress here. At the other hand, we have rising life expectancy, and which was already mentioned at the end, especially at the end of the life course, care needs, and then also a phase of providing care within during the pension time at higher ages, and this is also, of course, another challenge. So we see that policies are very important in shaping our life, and policies are asking us more and more to do the following things. We should learn lifelong. We should also be actively and aging and keep our health, stay healthy. Some even speak of the successful aging that is asked from us, from the individual. And we should reconcile work and family life. And here the question is, are policies doing this or asking this from the individual with help or with some help? And we have seen that the help, this solidaristic support, has also deteriorated at the same time. So the main thing remains paid work as a unique means for social inclusion. We continue to have unpaid work as a kind of lucky finding of capitalism, because without this unpaid work, much employment wouldn't be possible. Yeah, on top of that, I forgot, we also should be, of course, courageous volunteers from, at least during some weekends or some evenings. Apart from all this, we are very, we are asked to do a lot of multitasking. So the question is, how could we change this, and what kind of new trajectories and what support mechanisms could we develop on a societal level to support these transitions and also these solicitations that we all, of course, underwrite and underline, because of course we all want to live longer, we all want to have a job, but we also want to have family, and we want to support others and of course our family members. But how to combine all this over a life course? So therefore, the question is, how can we find better balances between paid and unpaid work, between education, training, and work, and this under conditions of Industry 4.0 will even be more challenging in the future, because every 10 years, whatever we have learned in one area might be outdated, and we might also have a lot of needs for retraining and relearning. So this means we need some incentives for this, and we should also have in mind intergenerational equity. And there the question is, what do we understand by generation? Is this like the old generational pattern, parents, children, or should perhaps we also need a new definition of generation in shorter terms? In any case, we are sure that we have gained a lot of years of life, from between 1916 and 2016. There is nothing new to tell you, but this was all still staying more or less with a legal pension age of around 65, some countries plus minus 2. But in 2060, it is foreseen that we will have a life expectancy of 87. We don't know, of course, but this is what experts tell us. And the question is, what are we doing with this time? If we still keep this chronologically defined legal pension age at 65. So the question is how we could perhaps take some parts of these gained life years and distribute them better over the life course, and then get rid of a legal pension age that is defined at some certain point, but to find other modes and other rules how to distribute education time, time for employment over the life course, time for learning. Because as I said, the solicitation is currently we should do everything all the time. Learning, caring, working. We might think about having some gap years, or however you call it, some time over the life course where we distribute education, and where we all know that inequalities, including also inequalities by age and by ageism, are linked to one fact that many people are dropping out of education at early times, which might be, but which is of course a problem. But the major problem is that they never get a second or third chance. And here, so it's not about only a 2 months training at some point of 30, but it's about also the opportunity or opening the possibility for people to start studying at 40. Some people are doing this individually, but I think this is a way of reducing inequalities by offering second and third chances, of course supported by some kind of guaranteed income, however you call it, life course transition or citizen income, you name it. And only then we can talk about extending working lives also beyond 65. But of course it is not fair to tell people after 40 years of work when they arrive at 65, well, unfortunately now we have to increase the pension age. So this is something that needs to be taken in a long run, and we'll talk about this, how this could be done. I mentioned already that the lack of education is often a problem for, causing inequalities, and we see some policies already that are addressing this, like early childhood education and support, new types of learning and schooling, education guarantee for adolescents. I think this is also in Finland, Austria, but we also need better retraining as part of active labor market policies. So we have seen some reforms, but not yet systematic approach towards aging for zero. Actually, I was missing one thing anyway. And the individual life courses, of course, are also very much influenced by the norms of the welfare state. So a new approach would also need to address the institutions of the welfare state and adapt them to this kind of new approach. So what we want to do by, or what is foreseen in a concept of aging for zero, means to address the new social risks that I pointed out, especially regarding the transitions over the life course. But the risk distribution needs to be underpinned by solidaristic approaches rather than by just an individualized risk management. I mentioned already the chances are that this is also reducing the what we have now as gendered life course perspectives, a new balance of paid and unpaid work, and is in particular an acknowledgement of the unpaid reproduction work. And we also would adapt to the technological change, to the new skills that are asked, because we would support the retraining of workforce over the life course, and we would facilitate transitions. Yeah, I skipped the cost-benefit considerations. Of course, this would be and would ask for an investment on the macro level, but also on flexibility and the change of the self-perception of aging of the individual. But in order to embark into this paradigm change, we need more institutes that were presented here, where people from different, especially in research, from different backgrounds work together and think about how to adapt the societal institutions from aging 3.0, what we would have now, to aging 4.0. A final thing would be that we would need to design social investment and a new welfare that is supporting this solidaristic approach to support the individual over the life course. I now found out that I have the wrong presentation. But I will skip this part because I would like to discuss with you a bit more what kind of what would be these changes in social policy, in social security, what kind of social services or what kind of support mechanisms would we need in order to get to something that we could call aging 4.0. Because, as I said, of course, this would, on the one hand, extend our, we would not call it anymore our employment perspectives, because it would be a better combination of work, learning, and caring, or unpaid work, however you want to call it, across the life course, and we would get rid of fixed chronological age limits. So perhaps you have some ideas and could share it with me. I have also some ideas, but I open them later. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. So we have a couple of questions, a couple of minutes for your comments. Please engage with Guy. I can start actually while you're thinking. I think that I really liked your presentation and the policy brief that is behind it, the discussions therein. I think the relationship between aging 3.0 and 4.0 is still, I think there's a lot of resistance in the common thinking of it, and I'm referring to, because Finland, I think you may be well aware that Finland was one of the countries that tried out this citizen income. I think it was 4,000 people, Finnish people, that were given this. And now it seems to me, I haven't followed up the discussion in detail, but I think that they are dismissing it very quickly. So how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I would respond to it that this was, of course, if you design something like this under the current under the current system, it is clear that it doesn't work. Because that it doesn't work. Of course, it worked as far as I've seen the first results. It worked in terms of social inclusion. Better social inclusion, less poverty, and so on. But it did not work in getting people into employment. This is clear, because it was just the money. If you combine this, and this was my proposal, you need to combine these kinds of mechanisms, because this was an unconditional citizen benefit. If you combine it with, training, education, opportunities for education, of course this is not easy. Not somebody who had worked in construction, on a construction site, might probably not easily start to get a new education at 40. But I'm not sure. There might be more, but this is mainly my point. You need to combine such things in a smart way with other possibilities, you could call it also conditional citizen benefit. So you don't get it for free, but of course also family work, whatever. We need a discussion about how we can support people that are at the margins there of social exclusion. How to get them back into society, and this is not done by only giving the money.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't want to be naughty, but your question about social policy, I have to say that we also need a change in health policy. And for me, it's interlinked. So
for me, it's all the same. Yeah, social and health policy is one.
Okay, then we agree on
Yeah.
that. Because I think in health, if you look at health, you're either healthy or you're not. And we have to work on that idea that although you have a sickness or you do have a limitation or whatever, that you can do a limited amount, maybe a reduction in the amount of work or the working time or whatever, but it doesn't mean that you have to stop.
Right.
And you also need to have a second chance after a period of severe health issues. So
right.
That's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, we have seen this, what is still called invalidity pension.
Yeah.
So if this is the only way you get out of employment because of health problems, be they physical or mental, then of course you have a problem. And we have seen then politicians then invented, they reduced the entitlement or put up the threshold. And then of course people are again excluded rather than being included in terms of additional training or support mechanisms that still keep the person in society. So I think this is of course an important part.
And I also think that employers need to change their mind because they still think it's a burden to hire a person with a disease or disability.
Right. I think this is the next presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good over. good link to the next presentation.
Okay.
Thank you very much.